This is the best humble brag in the Bible. I think this is the best humble brag. You know what humble brag is. Like, you're being humble, but you're bragging at the same time. Like, you know, when you were in high school, you were on a basketball team, and somebody would ask you, hey, did you play basketball? Yeah, I played basketball. I was okay. You know, I was first team all conference. I led this team in scoring, went upstate in the all-star game. You know, you start giving all your accolades, but yet you're kind of playing down a little bit. That's a humble brag. Well, this is a humble brag, and probably the best one in the Bible. So, everybody, Mr. Brown here, Proclaim Ministries, helping connect faith and life. Humble bragging is something we do sometime, but I like this humble bragging. You might disagree. It might not be humble brag, but this is a great story that I remember all the time. I think about this story a lot because these guys were not bragging on themselves, but they were bragging and standing firm on God. Well, the story is found in Daniel chapter 3. We find these boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And maybe you've heard the story you grew up. I'd heard a lot growing up about these three boys, Hebrew boys, who were the followers of God, but they were working for this king, King Nebuchadnezzar, who was not a believer, but they were high officials. They in Daniel chapter 1 talks about how they were taken into captivity, but they were so smart and so bright that they were put in charge of some things, right? They were leaders in this guy's kingdom. Well, they made a rule that they made the statue, this image that everybody was supposed to bow down when they heard the music. Whenever they heard the music play, they're supposed to bow down and worship. So I thought about how often do we in our culture hear ungodly music and we bow down and worship it. Like, we don't worship it, but we show worth and value to it. We don't bow down, we dance, we jiggle, we drop it like it's hot. And the question is, who are we worshiping? Who are we showing worth and value to? So in this way, they were told they must bow down and worship at this image of King Nebuchadnezzar. Well, these Hebrew boys, just like in Daniel chapter 1, they knew their God. They knew who they were in their God. They were secure who they were, and they refused to do it. So some people told, hey, these guys in your cabinet, these leaders, they're not bowing down when they hear the music. So King Nebuchadnezzar came to them and said this in verse 13. Nebuchadnezzar, in furious rage, commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought. So they brought these men before the king. Verse 14. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said to them, is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image that I have set up? Now, if you are ready, when you hear the sound of the horn, the pipe, the lyre, the trigon, the harp, the bagpipe, and every kind of music, to fall down and worship the image that I have made, well and good. So he said, listen, I'm going to play this music again. You get another chance. We hear it. We will bow down. Again, that makes me think about the music in our world today. When we hear that bass drop, that beat drop, we, in some senses, worship. You can challenge me now. Tell me what you think about that. But in this case, they were told, if you do it, well and good. But then he goes on and says this, but if you do not worship, you shall immediately be cast into a burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you out of my hands? Nebuchadnezzar was the king. He was the ruler. He was the man, right? And he had his kingdom, and he thought he could rule over everything, including these men. But they understood that there was someone greater than King Nebuchadnezzar. If I try to relate to our day, our government sometimes can be out of control, which is honestly, I just think sometimes the government asks us to do things or push things in front of us that are not necessarily godly or good. And not only that, from a spiritual sense, the God of this world. Like, sometimes as believers, you feel like everything is just controlled by the evil one. Like, from the stuff that's coming down in our schools, coming down from our government, and I mentioned our music, our media, our culture. And we feel like, I think we're being squeezed to kind of conform. And Romans chapter 1, verse 1 and 2 says, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This world is trying to conform us and make us into this, to worship the things or give value to things that God says we shouldn't. And I think this happened through all of time, that there's been these two forces, the kingdom of dark, kingdom of light. Matter of fact, we're doing Vacation Bible School this year, and that's our theme, the kingdom of light, kingdom of darkness. The fact that we are in God's kingdom, but we live in this world that's controlled by the evil one to a certain extent, and we feel like we have to bow down to it. Well, they're in a situation. So now they have to give an answer to the king. And this is where I think the humble brag comes in. Verse 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. Did y'all catch that? He says, they said, God is able to save us from the fiery furnace. God is able to. And I like that because sometimes the believers say, God's going to do this. I don't know what God is going to do because God has plans I don't sometimes understand, but I know that God is able. Matter of fact, I listened to a song earlier today. God is more than able. He's more than able and has the ability to do whatever he wills to do. God can do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. That's God. But they said, I don't know what he's going to do, but I know this, O king. He says, listen, he is able to bring us or to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. And I like that because I think they understand that he can save us from this. But at the end of the day, if we do go to fire furnace, we're still not going to be. If we die, we're not in your hands anymore. We ultimately are in the hands of God. And I think they elaborate that in verse 18. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. So they understood who their God was. They understood who they were, and they were willing to brag on their God. It was kind of humble brag. Like, look, God, we ain't got to answer you, homie. We ain't got to say nothing to you about this thing because we know what's happening. I'm sorry, a little hood came out of me. But anyway, they knew who they were, and more importantly, knew who their God was. That God is able to save them out of the fiery furnace. But even if he didn't save them from the fiery furnace, he was going to save them from the king's hands. Ultimately, the king does not have the ultimate decision about their lives. Their lives are in the hands of the Almighty God. And they understood that. And I really want to embrace that in my life. As these circumstances hit our lives, I want to be able to say, God, even if I die, like if I'm killed, if I'm murdered for my faith, I just was able to preach a sermon on the life of Stephen in Acts chapter 7, and he was stoned to death for standing up to the rulers. And if that happened to me, am I willing to die for Christ? And the truth is this, if I have to stand up for my faith, even just living my life, understanding this, that whatever happens on this earth is not the final answer. That if I die, I get to be with the Lord, in the presence of the Lord. So this idea that the world or even Satan has a final answer in my life is not true. And they understood that the king did not have the final word on their lives, because their lives are in the hands of the Almighty God. So when you face temptations, you face trials, understand that God, like the kid song said, he has the whole world in his hands. He's got mama and daddy and papa. He got me, he got you. God's got us. And we need to trust God in every situation, understanding that we don't have to answer or bow down to any king of this universe except the king of the universe. We don't have to bow down to the prince of the power of this air, the ruler of the air, the Bible calls him Satan. We don't have to bow down to our employers ultimately. We need to honor our employers, but they ask to do something that's against God's will. I don't have to bow down to you. Am I willing to lose my job to stand up for my faith? Am I willing to be ostracized to stand up for my faith? These guys were willing to lose their lives to stand up for what they knew was right. It started in Daniel chapter 1 where they wouldn't eat the king's food. Then it went on with their lives. Even though they were the rulers, they said no. And this video is getting kind of long, but check out the rest of the story to figure out, if you don't know the story, how the story ends. Maybe if you want me to, I'll do a part 2, what actually happens. But my focus of this video is this. They were bragging. It was a humble brag, not on themselves, but on God, who is able to save them. Let me read that again. I'll leave you with that. They said, let me read their response again. Verse 17, Daniel chapter 3, verse 17. If this be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hands, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. They refused to worship any other God but the God of the Bible. They knew God was more than able, and they were willing to stand firm on who God was. So in a sense, that was a humble brag, because they knew it wasn't about them, but about God. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Hopefully these videos and content is useful to help you live for God by connecting faith and life. Peace.